Greetings, my math students. This is part 2 of your lesson, focusing on adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. Now, we talked in our earlier lesson about what a mixed number was. A mixed number is a number with a whole and a fraction. It's mixed because it has the wholes and a fraction, so both of these are mixed numbers here. In our last lesson, we taught how to add fractions, and the key for adding and subtracting fractions really is making sure that your denominators are the same. And as you can see, we have a 10 in both of these, so we don't have to find the least common denominator. Now, subtracting is very similar to subtracting just regular whole numbers. So what we're going to do is we want to put our larger number on top, which is 3 7/10. We want to put our smaller number on the bottom. If you put your smaller number on the top, you will not get the right answer. So you need to make sure you recognize which one's larger and which one's smaller. Same thing when you're subtracting whole numbers as you are with fractions. You always want to start in the right column. Now, in this number, it's our fractions. So since we have 10 as our denominator, we know that that's our denominator and our answer as well. Next, what we need to do is we need to look at the numerators. And this is a 7 and this is a 2. Since we don't have to regroup, since 7 is our larger number, all we need to do is we have 7 and we're taking 2 away. That gives us 5. Once we've done our fractions, then we subtract our whole numbers, and 3 take away 2 is 1. Now hopefully when you look at 5/10, you realize that number is in a different form. There's another way we can represent that. We can also represent 1 and 5/10 as 1 whole and 1 half. That's your equivalent fraction. Now let's try one where there's going to be some regrouping. And this is where most of us are going to need some extra practice. So please pay careful attention to this. Let's start with 7 wholes and 1/8. We're going to take away 5 wholes and 3/8. Okay. These are mixed numbers because you have a whole number and a fraction. Now, can we subtract these like they are? Yes, we can, because their denominators are both 8. So we can definitely just go ahead and subtract these right now without finding the least common denominator. So what we want to do is we want to put our larger number on top, which is 7 1/8. And we want to put our smaller number on the bottom, which is 5 3/8. Now what I like to do is, since my denominators are the same, I just like to write in the denominator in my answer already, because I know it's going to be 8. That's just one less thing I have to do. When subtracting, just like adding, you always need to start in the right column. So we never subtract the denominators. We already have our 8 down here. So we need to look at our numerator. This is a 1 and this is a 3. Well, if you have one piece of candy, you cannot take 3 more away. So we need to do something. We need to go next door to our 7 and borrow. So we're only going to borrow 1 whole. Now this is the trickiest part. What makes up a whole with this fraction right here? Well, if you look at our denominator, it's an 8. So a whole would be 8/8. So we need to add 8 pieces to the one we already have to get this whole. So my trick is just take the denominator and add it to the numerator, and you would get 9. So we took a whole from here, and we added 1 whole to our numerator, so we now have 9. So 9 take away 3 is 6. And 6 take away 5 is 1. Let's try one more. Hopefully this is really getting exciting for you guys. I'm pretty intrigued myself. Alright, so let's do 9 1/3. Take away 2 2/3. Okay? Always want to put your larger number on top, which is 9 1/3. And you're taking away 2 wholes and 2/3. And hopefully by this time you're starting to realize, well, my denominators are the same, so I can just write my denominator 3 at the bottom. I'm done with that. Now this is the tricky part. If we have one piece, but we need to take 2 away, we need to borrow. So we need to go to the 9 and borrow 1 whole, which will leave us 8 left. So if we take 1 whole, a whole in our fraction is 3 pieces. but we already have 1 here. So all we need to do is add 3 to our 1, which gives us 4 pieces now. We added a whole. So now before take away 2 is 2, and 8 take away 2 is 6. So your answer would be 6 2/3. Now let me show you one more kind of tricky one that I know we're going to have a little trouble with. Now this one is really tough, okay? As you can see, this is not a mixed number here. It's not a mixed number right now because there are no fractions associated with this whole number. So what we need to do is we just need to write our large number on top like we have been, line it up with your 1 whole, and then put 1/2 kind of in a column all by itself. Right down here, we're subtracting these. Okay, now before we do anything, we know that our denominator is going to be 2. Has to be. Okay, so this is where it gets a little tricky because right now we don't have anything to subtract. So what you need to do is you need to write 0 pieces over 2. So 0 is your numerator and 2 would be in your denominator because you don't have any. That also stands for 0. So we can't do, if we don't have any, we can't take 1 away, so we need to borrow from the 2, borrow 1 whole, and if we're adding a whole to 0, it would turn into 2 wholes, or 2, I'm sorry, 2 pieces over 2, which is our new whole. So 2 take away 1 is 1, and 1 take away 1 is 0. So your answer would be 1/2. I hope this was challenging for you.